In April of 2024, Nintendo shut down the Nintendo 3DS online services. If you try to access any of the online features now, you'll be hit with a message telling you to buy a Switch, loser. However, there is one feature that still works, and that's Pokémon Bank. As of making this video, if you downloaded Pokémon Bank before the Nintendo eShop shutdown, you're still able to transfer Pokémon from the older generations to Pokémon Home. However, this is only for the near future, as this will close eventually. There's no guarantee that this will ever stay open forever. Knowing this, I made it my mission to beat the Pokemon games I had never beaten before and move up all my old Pokemon from older generations before the 3DS online services closed down. Now, I've played FireRed, Emerald, Platinum, Black, X, and Sun. However, I've only ever beaten FireRed, Platinum, and X. FireRed and Platinum are ready to be transferred, while Black is stuck at the Elite Four. And I need to beat the Elite Four in Pokemon Black, or else I can't transfer to the 3DS at all. I have no saves for Emerald, X, or Sun, so I need to completely beat those games. I also have Gen 1 and Gen 2 games from the Virtual Console on the 3DS, but I only need to beat Crystal because I can get the legendaries in that, and Celebi. So I will need to play through 4 whole games and beat the Elite Four on Black before the 3DS online server closes. That's the deadline I gave myself, and at the time I started this adventure, it was 1 month away. So let's begin with the game I've never beaten before, Pokémon Emerald. My first Pokemon game was FireRed, and I would consider myself a Gen 1er, which is ironic when I say I've never beaten Emerald because FireRed is Gen 3 mechanically. Honestly, I've barely played Emerald. I've had this cartridge since I was a kid, and I've never gotten past the second gym. I kept trying to revisit the game and resetting each time and just getting bored or stuck and just not liking it. But this time will be different. So I start by resetting my last save and wake up in the back of a moving truck. I then get kicked out of the house, run into an old man getting beat up by a wild dog. I steal a chicken from his bag and beat up the dog, and he rewards me by gifting me the chicken, and I name her Chick. He then tells me to go and beat up his grandson. And this is a point where I've always struggled. I've failed at this first battle a handful of times, so I'm not going to do that right now. What I'm going to do first is over level. And this is going to be my strategy throughout the rest of the game, is keeping Chick over leveled so that she can carry us throughout the rest of the game. After beating Brendan, I was off to Petalburg City to fight my dad, who refuses to battle me until I get 4 gym badges. So now I have a goal, gain enough gym badges to beat my father, and then get the rest of the badges to unlock the legendary Pokemon. Cause I already know I want a Rayquaza. I've never had a Rayquaza, but is it not the coolest Pokemon? I go and beat the first gym with Chick, really easy, and then hop on a yacht to go and beat the second gym. Okay, I need to get this off my chest, because this game is really fun and an ideal Pokemon experience. However, it suffers from a pretty big pacing issue. You can beat the first 3 gyms in this game in under 3 hours and barely interact with the team bad guys. After the 3rd gym though, you do get sent on this whole side quest going up Mount Chimney to go and interact with the bad guy plot, but I didn't feel really connected to it. I am button mashing through all of this, not really listening to anybody, but it wasn't intriguing to me. I just wanted to beat the 4th gym, and finally after the 5 hours I can go and do that. There's a big gap between gym badge 3 and gym badge 4, because right after gym badge 4 as well, you can go and fight your dad. And overall, the game's been pretty easy so far. I am fighting with a disadvantage on most of the first few gyms, but overall not a bad experience until my dad. So I use all the trainers within the gym to help level up Chick, but she doesn't get strong enough to become Blaziken yet, but I just want to get done with this. So I go and fight my dad, and for the first time this whole game, Lady Luck was against me because I'm not over leveled to him. He is on the same level as Chick. While he is a normal type trainer and I do have fighting moves, it won't work as strongly for some of these guys. Chick is able to double kick Spinda easily out. He then throws out Slacking, who hits hard but then goes to sleep. So Chick's able to beat Slacking. He then throws out Vigoroth, who's super fast and hits really hard, knocking out Chick. I then have to revive Chick, get Vigoroth out of there, and then comes Lanoon. Oh, you would think it's an evolved form of Zigzagoon. It's easy. No, because the first thing Lanoon does is Belly Drum, halving his own health to hit at max attack, knocking out my whole team in one hit. Now, I didn't have the best team right now. All that I have to beat these guys is Chick. So I have to go and grind. I do that, come back, rematch my father, prove that I am worthy to him, and I earn the gym badge. Before getting the next badge, I stop for a moment to get my favorite Pokemon, Absol. While I know most Poké-nerds would say Absol is not good choice, I'm going to spoil this adventure a little bit and say you're wrong. Well, I understand Absol doesn't have the best stats. After upgrading her with Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball, and Ice Beam, my baby Absol would become the champion in this game. So I go and beat the 7th gym while Team Aqua and Team Magma awaken the babies and they start fighting. So I have to go and grab their mom to break them up. And with that done, Rayquaza is catchable. So before beating the 8th gym, I go and grab him, come back, beat the 8th gym, and now it's just for the Pokemon League. Except we're gonna back up real quick, cause this was the time where I decided to seek out some of the coolest Pokemon, the Reggies. So when I first got to Moss Deep, I went fishing for a Whelmer right away. Because in order to unlock the Reggies, you need 2 things. You need a Wellord and a Relicanth. So I grabbed a Whelmer and leveled him up during the 7th and 8th gym in order to get into Wellord. And then outside of Stupopolis, after beating the 8th gym, I went hunting for Relicanth. This was the hardest part of doing any of this. Whelmer is pretty easy to catch because it's the only thing you can catch with a Super Rod. But Relicanth has only a 10% chance encounter rate. Now, on the surface, that's not bad. Golbat has a 10% chance encounter rate, and I see them all the time. Absol has an 8% chance encounter rate, and I found her. So I had to go and grab Tropius and use Sweet Scent for hours. And there was not a single Relicanth anywhere. I spent literally 4 in-game hours using Sweet Scent over and over and over again, trying to find Relicanth, and he wasn't showing up. Absol probably took me about 20 minutes to find. And that's finding on, like, hunting. Because the first time I found Absol, I didn't know I did. I just ran into them and accidentally killed them. So I had to go and find another Absol. Relicanth just isn't showing up this time. After 4 hours at the bottom of the ocean, Relicanth finally shows up. My heart is pounding. I'm scared because I don't want to hurt this thing and I don't want it to struggle and accidentally murk itself. Luckily, it only took 3 Great Balls. We're good to go. So we can go unlock the Reggies. And now I'm going to struggle with getting through the waves. To get to the island, you need to swim through a current running east to west. I had to fly back here multiple times because I kept getting swept down the wrong current. After a handful of attempts of doing that, I finally make it through. Done. So now I go for Regirock, and I'm gonna be honest, I kind of messed up on this one. I probably tried about 15 times before I realized I was doing this all wrong. I was really afraid of knocking him out, which I did end up doing a few times, but I didn't have a Pokemon with False Swipe, none of my party was higher than level 40, and I didn't have a Pokemon that could really get him to sleep. I eventually did grab Shroomish, put him to sleep, but for the most part, I was relying on Blaziken to knock him down into the red, and then we try to catch him. However, I realized in Gen 3, the odds don't change. The odds don't really change if he's within 1/3 of his health. They're about the same. So I was just focusing on getting him that low, and after a handful of attempts, I finally got him. That's 1 Reggie down. Next was Regice. And now having more of an understanding of what I'm doing to catch the Reggies, it took 1 fight and 4 balls to catch him. I am so relieved because the Reggies have some of the lowest catch rates in all of Pokemon, with only 1% catch rate regardless of the ball you're using. I'm trying to use Ultra Balls if I can, but for the most part, they're impossible to catch if you're using anything else. 1% chance with an Ultra Ball, that's fucking insane! So we move on to Registeel. Regice was really easy. Regirock, it was more so just my own stupidity. Registeel, it was the most difficult fight for me. You would think since I know what I'm doing now, this should have been as easy as Regice. Nope. The first fight, I got him low, threw 1 ball, broke out, thought maybe I could get him a little bit lower, and I killed him. Second fight, I accidentally 2-shot him, killed him twice. Third fight, I put him to sleep this time. I throw a bunch of balls at him. He woke up, took out my whole team. Meanwhile, I just kept throwing balls. I didn't want to hurt him. He struggles and kills himself. He ran out of moves. He just wouldn't stay in the ball. After a few more tries, I finally got him. After hours of looking for an ancient fish, grinding to level up a well, fighting a rock, taming the waves, fighting a block of ice, and beating up scrap metal, I caught all the Reggies. At this point, I'm ready for the Pokemon League. I enter the Pokemon League with Chick, Absol, Gyarados, Rayquaza, Regice, and Registeel. This was the best team I could pull together after hours of research and who I had ready without more grinding. When I beat the Elite Four in FireRed, I relied solely on my level 89 Charizard, who one-shot basically everybody. That won't work this time, so I'm hoping level 50 Chick can carry most of the fights and level 70 Rayquaza will be our safety if no one else is doing the trick. With a plan set, it's time to face the Elite Four. My first fight is Sydney, a dark type trainer. My plan is to begin with Chick and power through the whole fight with him using double kick, which works half the fight. Then I pull out my star player Rayquaza, who'll handle Crawdon, and then brought out Absol to have an Absol v Absol fight. Absol two-shots his and barely took any damage. At this point, having cleared the first member, I was feeling good. I healed my party and moved Absol to the front because she'll be able to handle Phoebe, who was a ghost type trainer. Absol takes out her whole team and barely sweats. She fainted once because I couldn't heal her in time, but overall during this fight she really proved herself. This is when I knew Absol was better than people were giving her credit for, because I spent most of my time before I put Absol on my team reading online what people thought. But I couldn't go a whole game without my favorite Pokemon and not have her on my team, so I put her here and she rocked. We heal up and we move to fight the Glacia, an ice type trainer. Another easy fight for Chick, and only had to switch to Rayquaza because Glacia sends out Walrein, who has Surf. This time, no one faints. I head to the fourth member of the Elite Four, Drake, who's a dragon type trainer. By far the hardest fight so far. Chick squares up against Shogun and double kicks it, only for Drake to switch it out for Kingdra. I didn't know the AI could do that, but stubbornly mashing A led me to double kicking Kingdra, and then Kingdra uses Surf to knock out Chick. So Absol goes out, Thunderbolts Kingdra, only for that to fail and Absol faints. Regice then goes out and finishes Kingdra, and then Regice takes out Altaria, and then gets Flygon weak, only to be knocked out by Flygon. At this point, it's time for Rayquaza, who beats Flygon and Salamence for me. Half of my team's gone, but we're done with the first 4 fights. I use all my revives with only 1 max revive left, having just barely made it past Drake. It's time for the champion, Wallace, the water type champion. Chick is no use here, so I start with Absol, who takes out Wailord and Tentacruel, but faints on Ludicolo. So then I call out Chick, which works, only to faint on Gyarados. Make me call out Regice, faints. Registeel, faints. All because Gyarados has Earthquake. Luckily, Rayquaza isn't affected by Earthquake, so Gyarados is out. I waste a turn to revive Absol, throw him out against Wishcash, only to be proven stupid, cause Wishcash also has Earthquake. Great, so my whole team is still dead, and all I have is Rayquaza and Gyarados, who hasn't seen a fight at all. I'm not kidding, I never pulled out Gyarados once. Honestly, I've begun to learn Gyarados ain't that good. Gyarados always frickin' fails me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Rayquaza kills Wishcash and squares up against Melodic. Rayquaza then happily eats Melodic, beating Wallace and allowing me to become the champion of the Hoenn region for the first time. While celebrating my victory, the professor and the annoying kid next door interrupts my moment to yap. Wallace then walks me up the victory hallway, tells me to enter my Pokemon to claim my role as champion, and I see my team enter into the Hall of Fame and the credits roll. For the first time in 17 years of owning this game, I am the Hoenn region champion. Through the credits, I'm looking up what I can catch in the post-game because I started this adventure to move a ton of Pokemon up into the modern day. I want Kyogre and Groudon, so the adventure isn't done yet. As the new champion of the Hoenn region, I go to start up my save, and my heart drops. My only option is to start a new game. I try not to panic. I don't hit any buttons. Turn the system off, turn it back on again, still the same. My save is completely gone. It turns out my Pokémon Emerald cartridge that I have had since I was a kid, that I've had for 17 years, is a fake. Looking up what fake Pokemon games look like, it's kinda obvious now. but I had no idea. The first time I play and beat the game and it corrupts on me. I spent 2 weeks playing this game. 50 hours of Pokemon gone. Chick, Absol, Rayquaza, Relicanth, the Reggies, just gone. All I have left of this playthrough is this one bit of footage I took. I know it's just digital data, but all 50 hours of that playthrough are just memories now. And it's sent me back in my quest. In my defeat, I needed a comfy palate cleanser. I didn't enjoy Emerald, but feeling like I wasted my time and knowing the clock is ticking, I needed a game I knew I could beat in 2 days. Now I know a lot of people don't like Gen 6, but I do. When I played it in 2014, I beat it in a weekend. And ironically, that was the first time I also lost a Pokemon game. I had a new Nintendo 3DS with my Pokémon X save downloaded onto it, and I kept taking it to school to gather Street Pass. And one day, when I was leaving the house, I put it in my bag, and when I got home, it was no longer in my bag. Someone, at some point, looked through my bag without me knowing and stole it. I had not only lost my Pokemon X save, I had also lost Animal Crossing New Leaf in the cartridge. That's 2 games where you really don't want to lose a save on. Those are full hours of gameplay and stories that you just won't be able to recreate. With Animal Crossing, it's more apparent that it's your story. This is your game, this is your island, this is your village with your villagers and your items, things that you collect. In Pokemon, it's not as apparent, but given the way the RNG is generated, it really does become your game, your save. I gathered that team and built them up strong enough to beat the Elite Four. I spent the time to search and gamble to catch that Pokemon with an 8% chance catch rate. The RNG in Pokemon games are based around so many specific variables in your playthrough that it really does become your game. The RNG is generated by your trainer ID, start time, start date, whether you're a boy or a girl, your name, dick size, your favorite Pokemon, your mom's favorite Pokemon, if somebody's watching you, and the version of the game that you are playing, that all builds up your specific experience when you're playing a Pokemon game. And to lose all of that sucks. Again, you spend those hours to build that team, and then you not only lose that, but you lose your Animal Crossing save. Well, I did. That's why I think Pokemon X right now is the perfect follow-up, to recapture a win from something that I lost. This game starts so fast, it's really nice. I am mashing A of course, but it doesn't take more than 5 minutes for me to get a starter, and I am free to explore. I chose Fennekin as my starter and named him Fenny. I then traded a Bumblebee for a Farfetch'd named Quacklin, and then within the first hour, I'm beating Viola, the bug-type gym leader, and I have 1 badge on my way to Lumino City, where I'm then gifted a Kanto starter, and I choose Bulbasaur this time. In my old playthrough, I chose Charmander, but I want an actual team this time, so after that, I go and act rich, find a lost dog, watch some fireworks, and then I'm on my way to Embrit Town to catch an Absol and name her Helena. Then it's on to the next city to fight Grant, the rock-type gym leader. And it wasn't too hard of a fight. I'm moving on to fight Corina, who has Mienfoo and Machoke. Right now, my team has only made up of 4 Pokemon: Fenny, Quacklin, Bud, and Helena. I'm not really trying to catch them all this playthrough, so I'm just using a team that I like. And this was all going fine. Up until this point, I've really only had to use Fenny and everything was fine. And then I got to Corina. Fenny's able to take out her Mienfoo and Machoke pretty easily, until she throws out Hawlucha and takes out Fenny with Flying Press. So I throw out Bud. Boom! Flying Press. I throw out Helena. Boom! Flying Press. I throw out Quacklin, just expecting to white out. He tanks the hit. He tanks the motherfucking hit. Stood his ground, staring down Hawlucha with his eyes. Quacklin looks up, points his leak at Hawlucha, and Hawlucha does another Flying Press, tanks the hit again. Quacklin smacks him with the leak. Out for the count. I beat Corina with Quacklin. This was the first time Quacklin's seen a battle, and he came through. Then Corina took me to the top of the tower to propose to me with a Lucario, who I named Corn. Then we finally get to use Mega Evolutions. Then on my way to the next gym, I adopt a Lapras named Lappy, just so I could surf this one really small gap. And now with that, I've made up my whole team. Finny, Quacklin, Bud, Helena, Corn, and Lappy. I go to the next gym to defeat Ramos. Then I have to go and fight a gauntlet of Team Flare members. This part was so annoying. I needed to fight 9 Team Flare members in a row. Now it's not too bad. I kept going back to heal. There's a bed right over there. And Finny's such a high level, he's just one-shotting everybody. But it's still like, I gotta fight 9 people. And some of them don't even have like a single Pokemon. They have like 2 or 3 sometimes. I'm not trying to do all this, I just want badges. So I beat them, move on, do the most annoying trainer puzzle ever at the next gym. They give me a quiz, and in order to move onto the next floor to go and fight the gym leader, you need to answer the quiz correctly. But before you can give the correct answer, you have to do a battle. It is multiple choice, so that's pretty easy. But at minimum, you have to do 4 battles before you go and fight the leader. I hate gyms like these, where it's mandatory to fight the extra guys in front, when there are a handful of gyms where you can just completely miss all the extra people and just fight the gym leader alone. We're like the 8th gym in Emerald, where you can just do the ice puzzle and then move on. If you want to go to the bottom and fight everybody below and then level up, that's fine. But making it mandatory here, especially whenever I know I have the right answer, it's padding for time. That's what it is. Pokemon games now have to pad for time, and this was the first attempt at like trying to do that and disguising it, but it doesn't work. But anyway, the leader was easy. I move on. I'll go to the next city to fight the fairy leader, and Finny washes her. Moving on. And just sprint through Route 15, 16, 17. Professor McDreamy shows up though, right before I have to fight the coolest gym in all of Pokemon, the Psychic Gym. This was a fun fight, but Helena washed her. After that, Lysander calls me. Why is he calling a 12-year-old? I don't know. But he calls me, tells me to go to his cafe. Again, kind of weird. I beat his goons to get to the secret base. I go down into the basement, fight a gauntlet of Team Flare members again. And then he grows a massive flower for me, and I have to head to a completely other town where Lysander then monologues, and Double Dog dares me to go down to free the legendary deer. So I do it, I capture it. However, the flower still has power to destroy itself. And with that, I switch Quackling out with Xerneas and head to the 8th gym, the final gym in Snowbell City. But first, before I can go and do the gym, I have to go and find the gym leader. I have to find the Pokemon Village, this place that houses a ton of Dittos. This will be important later. And I solved the easiest ice puzzle in all the Pokemon games, just so that I can wash Wolfric, because it's an ice gym and I have a fire Pokemon. Then it is time to load up on revives and potions and take on the Pokemon League. The first Elite Four member, Malva, Fire type. Lappy and Helena, take her easy. Next is Seabold, Water type. Bud and Helena, wash again. Next is Wickstrom, Steel type. Finny, Helena, eat. Drasna, Dragon type. Xerneas manhandles the whole fight. I haven't needed to revive a single Pokemon, only had to use potions. Time to face Diantha, the champion. I started sweating when she threw out Hawlucha, and I mean, you can guess what happened. But once I got rid of him, fight was easy. I became the champion of the Kalos region. Thousands of French people came to celebrate my victory, until this creepy old man showed up and decided to fight me. Easily washed him and banned him from the country, and the credits roll. 10 years ago, I beat this game in 2 days. 10 years later, I beat it again in 2 days. But the whole point I was playing this game was because of the post game. I decided since I'm going to transfer all my Pokemon eventually, I wanted the team I made to come with me. But I don't want to leave the game without any of the Pokemon, so I decided to fill the void by breeding my team and leaving their kids in this game while my team joins me in the future. But first I need to catch a Ditto so that there isn't any issue breeding. So I head to the Pokemon Village. I immediately find one Ditto, catch it. But then I had a thought, I should bring a Ditto to the future so I always have a Ditto, right? So I go to find another one. I couldn't find another Ditto for a minute, so I started wandering around the Pokemon Village. And I stumble across a cave. Stepping inside, I see... I had no idea he was here. I didn't know Mewtwo was in this game. Yeah, I'm following a walkthrough. I didn't read this far yet though. I was just trying to see what else the area had to offer. I guess I found it. I immediately save and panic. I look through what I have and I decided I will start a battle. And after 23 balls, I catch him. I head back to the breeding center, make the babies, then move on to find our next Pokemon, Zapdos. The 3 Kanto birds can be found in this game, but only 1 per playthrough, depending on the starter that you chose. I chose Fennekin, so I only get Zapdos. It's really not hard. I can just repel and run up and down a route for 20 minutes until I encounter Zapdos 11 times. I actually prefer this type of roaming legendary as it's guaranteed eventually to actually fight me after a certain amount of times. With others, they could just run from me forever if I don't know how to stop them. I capture him, and then it's time to end this adventure by capturing Zygarde. Zygarde hides at the bottom of the Terminus cave. It was a pretty easy catch, probably because Pokemon Z was never released, but with Pokemon X done, the Pokemon are ready to be transferred. Alright, let's backtrack a little bit real quick to Gen 5. My Pokemon Black game that I abandoned at the Elite Four lobby. I played the game over a few days when it first released and hated it so much, I tried to just rush to the end. I got to the Elite Four and saved in the lobby and wasn't able to leave, so I tried to fight them and lost and just quit for years. I would attempt to beat them a few times, then realize the game sucks and I abandoned the game again. Well, I can't do that anymore. I need to beat Pokemon Black in order to transfer Pokemon from the older games to Bank. So I boot up and use my team made up of Durant, Excadrill, Zebstrike, Heatmore, Unpheasant, and Emperor. And I go to fight the Elite Four and lose horribly. It wasn't even close. This team was grossly underleveled because I just wanted to get the game over with. But maybe I just have bad luck, but it feels like even if I have a same type attack advantage, it does less damage than it should. But when the opponent has a disadvantage, they hit me for all my health. Or when a move should one-shot because I have stab on them, it stops just before 1 health, even without Sturdy. Then every trainer has a potion to heal, and then they somehow are faster, and the next turn kill my Pokemon! Fights feel like they take so much longer because the attacks are so random and inconsistent. It feels like every hit does a different amount of damage despite 0 factors changing. Emboar could take half health on the first hit, then do 1/3 of that damage on the second hit for no explainable reason. So I purposely take the L and decide to switch out my Pokemon team for anyone in my box that is strong and has type advantage. I end up keeping Emperor and Unpheasant and switch Durant, Excadrill, Zebstrike, Heatmore for Mienshao, Gothitelle, Drugdichon, and Golok. I grind them up to level 50, then went back to take my revenge. From left to right, Ghost type trainer Chantel, Dark type trainer Grimsley, Psychic type trainer Caitlyn, and Fighting type trainer Marshall. For the next hour, I participate in the gauntlet for my life. My new members, Gothitelle, Mienshao, and Golurk, become star players on my team. While at times my entire team was knocked out, there was always a point where one of these guys would eat a hit, sit in the red, then get the final hit on the enemy. But oh my god, did my team get smacked around for no reason. It was like my team was using foam swords and the Elite Four had bazookas. I barely beat them though, and I am then led up a wall of stairs to button mash through this absolute garbage I don't care about. I just want to beat the game. Then I have to button mash through Cosmo rambling about some cringe shit. I finally get the chance to catch the white dragon, and then I have to fight Cosmo. When I beat him, he cries and his dad shows up, and I have to fight him too. 2 additional fights. 2 extra fights. I'm fine with the Elite Four, then a champion, but I was upset that X added the AZ fight after it. At least that fight was easy. It would have been better if it was like a hidden post-game fight, like after becoming the champion you have to find and talk to AZ in the overworld and he'll fight you. But this where you're forced to fight for the story reason is so lame. Team Bad Guy shouldn't interfere with the Pokemon League progress this late into the game. I hate in any game where I have to separate from the fun stuff to do the things I don't care about. I don't mind having to fight a Team Bad Guy grunt every so often to unlock missions I actually want to complete, but to force me off my path to do a completely unrelated task that I'm gonna have to button mash through isn't fun. I just don't want to have to fight 2 people after the Elite Four. And even after that, I technically didn't beat the Unova League because some whiny brat of an NPC got in the way? Fuck it. I'm done this time. Next part of my plan. Next part. Moving on. So I beat Pokemon Platinum back in the day, and apparently I put in more than 200 hours into the game. This is by far one of my favorite Pokemon games. However, I still left it unfinished with the roaming mythicals and legendaries just out in the world. So I caught Mesprit and Azelf as a kid, but Uxie, Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres have avoided me all this time. And I knew the trick as a kid to catch these legendaries was just to run back and forth until they landed on the route that you were on. So coming back to the game, I just got right to work, started doing that, and after all this time, all this struggle, all the legendaries I missed, I caught them, and I've completed my Pokemon Platinum journey that I started as a kid. Now, some awesome fans somewhere gathered the Wi-Fi mystery gift system, and I've set up a server that can be connected to buy a DS, DSi, or 3DS and get every mystery gift available in Gen 4 and Gen 5. And I did this. This includes, but is not limited to, Arceus, Regigigas, Shiny Pichu, Ash's Pikachu, Shiny Entei, Shiny Raikou, Shiny Suicune, Oak's Letter, Shiny Dialga, Shiny Palkia, Shiny Giratina, Darkrai, Mewtwo, and other legendaries depending on your game. There are also a few added items such as extra apps on the Gen 4 games and the Azure Flute. And yes, using the Azure Flute, you can catch an extra Arceus. Also, if you get Regigigas in Platinum, you're able to catch the Regitrio. So after spending hours trying to catch the Regitrio in Emerald and losing that game, I now have to do it again. However, despite what the internet says, you can use the Regitrio caught in Platinum unlocked by the Regigigas mystery gift to catch the Regigigas already on your Platinum cartridge. Everywhere I looked online, people said that you need to transfer the Regitrio from Gen 3 to Platinum to unlock the Regigigas already on your cartridge. That isn't true. You can just get the mystery gift, catch the Platinum Regitrio, then get the Platinum Regigigas. Now with all the mystery gifts I care to get, because there's a lot of garbage available, I go back to Pokemon Black to enter the Elite Four and take on the Hall of Fame with a team made up of Mewtwo, Kyurem, Reshiram, Shiny Dialga, Shiny Palkia, and Shiny Giratina. I hit the Elite Four with all these level 100 legendaries to prove a point. Fuck Gen 5! Now with Pokemon Black and Platinum completely done, let's move on to Pokemon Sun. So I was gifted Pokemon Sun when it first came out. I didn't try playing it for 2 years because I knew it was really bad. When I tried for the first time, I got to the school, then put the game down. And I haven't played it since. Pokemon Sun is hot garbage. It's Hawaii, it's good vibes, but I start the game and a shirtless man is calling me on Skype, asking if I'm a boy or a girl. I'm very uncomfortable now. Then it cuts to a cold open, and that's not how cold opens work, Game Freak. You don't start the game, ask for my A-sex location, then lead me into a grander story, and then throw me back to my home. The pacing already feels very off. It at least took Emerald a little while to get rocky, but this game decided to throw me into the Geodude den out the gate, and it only gets worse. Look, I know this is a tired critique, and I'm really late to the party, but you asked for my opinion, so here it is. It is not gameplay to press A through dialogue boxes. This is a cutscene. And there are games that are fine being what it is, basically a cutscene simulator. A lot of these games require you to make choices. The only choices Pokemon gives you is what starter do you want? And are you ready to walk 2 feet only for me to stop you again and tell you to go down the path that I already told you to walk down? I really thought the dialogue issue was only an issue on the first island because it's the tutorial, right? Like that's most tutorials. But why is it mandatory to go to school? I've played Pokemon before. Why do I need to do whatever is happening at the school? They're like, go to school, talk to everyone, and learn the type advantages. Then they tell me to play hide and seek and to find and fight the 4 idiots before I can move on. I understand if it takes less than 5 minutes if you know what you're doing, but why do I need to be here in the first place? It's a kid's game. I hate that critique in any set of media. You know what else is a kid's game? Every game before this one. And none of the school walkthrough bullshit was necessary. And once we do get to the second island, nothing changes. First, they edge me with this lab that I think maybe could be an interesting place to explore, but nope. You just get to press A while the kids walk around the lobby to an elevator, and then you get a moment to look around a garden and try to find someone, but it takes like 2 seconds. So you're just back to button mashing A until a jellyfish shows up, and I don't know what's happening. Nobody's doing anything, so I have to fight it, and this pisses me off because you can't even catch it like all the other Pokemon in the game. You can't catch the jellyfish. You can't catch totem Pokemon. You can't catch if there's more than one wild Pokemon on the field. Then why have horde fights to begin with? I guess it makes sense to not need to catch totem Pokemon because they're like strong or whatever, and you don't want to overpower the player. But you could just downgrade them whenever they are caught. I don't know. They're boosted by like some voodoo magic, and so just downgrade them whenever they're on the team. Now they don't have that boost. But why keep me from catching if the Pokemon has already called a friend? Why can't Pokemon even call friends? I didn't know this was a game show. I actually started running from Pokemon that called a buddy because they would always do it no matter what. Every time they took the slightest bit of damage, you hit them with a disadvantage move and the Pokemon would just call a buddy, be like, hey, I took 1% of damage, come and help me. And now you're stuck with this guy and the other guy and no Pokemon that can hit them in one shot. So I just started running. Honestly, they could even take no damage and just call a buddy. It doesn't take up a move slot. It's a secondary action. So you would take your turn, they would take their turn, then they would call a buddy, and now you're screwed. I started leaving every time. I didn't care. This was the first Pokemon game of this adventure that I am under-leveled. All because I am actively avoiding fights because Pokemon keep calling their friends and trainers are like every 2 steps. I hate running back to the last town because I'm weak when the next town is right there. And the routes aren't even long. Yet there are 12 trainers on them that I need to sneak around. Oh, and the dialogue in the story hasn't stopped. I counted at one point during one of these cutscenes 60 button presses to get through the dialogue. 60 from one cutscene that is simply telling me to go to the next town. I was already on my way there. I finished the level. What else would I be doing if not going to the next town? Oh, and the tasks, the challenges, I don't even remember what they're called because they're dumb. The game got rid of gym badges. So you no longer need to get gym badges to fight the Pokemon League. You need to do 15 challenges, then beat the Kahuna. Then you get the chance to fight the Hawaii League. I don't even know what it's called because, spoiler alert, I didn't finish the game. I don't mind this idea actually. It's a Pokemon world. The region is based on different regions from our world, and those regions have different cultures and different leagues and championships in their region. I actually like this type of world building. What I don't like is that it's garbage. I don't feel fulfilled completing half of these challenges. The only ones that I feel good having completed is the Kahuna ones because I'm actually doing something that's a fair fight. Except for the guy who has a foursome with the Marowaks, because fuck that guy. Because guess what? His gimmick was trying to guess the right answer, and whether you got it right or wrong, you had to do a battle, then you do the fight, the annoying ass totem Pokemon, and it takes such little damage, and I hope you don't lose, because if you do, you gotta start the fight over again and fight the Marowak. Like, let's go, buddy! It's so clear that this whole game is just padding. The overworld is so small, and there's such little of anything to do that they need to add the padding. 100 dialogue boxes just to go through a door. Friends for the enemy to fight against you. Thoughtless challenges. I'm collecting berries for this prick. It's not a good payoff. I just get to fight the totem Pokemon right after. Just let me fight the totem Pokemon and move on. What does this prove? Does this Pokemon exist for everyone who wants to become a champion? What if it just doesn't show up? What if it's raining? What if it snooze on its alarm? I don't understand how beating a random Pokemon makes sense in proving my strength as a trainer. A gym leader can see how strong I am. A rival opponent can see how strong I am. Refighting a gym leader makes sense. If I lose to a totem Pokemon, I can just come back and I'm forced to watch the same cutscene as if nothing happened. The Pokemon just waits for me. I understand that's kind of a nitpick, but as someone who likes and gets immersed into games, this kind of matters because this breaks the immersion. Pokemon already had that issue by not updating dialogue boxes on rematches, but this is wild. I got so frustrated with this game because I couldn't pass the section because I was underleveled. I brought my Pokemon from Pokemon X to help fight and just dealt with the consequences of them not obeying because they were too high of level. It was the best choice I made. I played until I got Mimikyu and gave up. I don't care enough about the game's legendaries to keep playing. This game sucks. This is the only game I am choosing not to finish. I'm not sorry. This game's actually worse than Gen 5. Now I'm at what should have been the end of my Pokemon journey. A generation I have never played at all. Gen 2. Because my Pokemon game was FireRed. So it was Gen 3, mechanically. But Gen 1 as a remake. So Gen 2 kind of just blew right by me. I know the least about the Johto region than any other part of Pokemon. I truly don't know what I'm in for. I chose to play Pokemon Crystal using the Virtual Console on the 3DS, and I truthfully don't like any starter this generation. The best probably is Chikorita, but I'm a fire type at heart, so I chose Cyndaquil. I didn't nickname any Pokemon in this game because the archaic sprite art would have made it hard to know what Pokemon is what in the PC. And what I didn't know about Gen 2 is how much it is just a straight up sequel to Gen 1. Team Rocket and Kanto connecting directly to Johto. I had no idea before playing this. It was pretty nice to have a fresh experience with Pokemon. I really only used a small party for most of this game, as there weren't many Pokemon available that I liked. I had Hoot-Hoot in my party most of the time, especially when I learned Fly, but my party for most of the game was Quilvile, Venomoth, Sudowoodo, Gyarados, and Eevee, and a Haunter to catch the legendaries. I really didn't switch anyone out too often until I started catching the legendaries. Speaking of, I found the lore behind the dogs in this game so interesting. 3 Pokemon who die in a fire brought back to life through a magical bird and are now destined to wander the land. It's a perfect flip on the birds in Gen 1 who rule the sky in the region while the dogs roam the land. What I don't like is that they're not easy to find. This method of trying to find roaming Pokemon is hugely outdated. And what makes me mad is that it kind of made a return in Gen 6. Because for some reason, Gen 5, 6, and 7 decided to trash one of the best features of Gen 4, which was the smartwatch. Having to pause the game, open up the Pokédex, scroll to the Pokemon that's roaming, then flip to the page that will show what route they're on, and then you just hope that you're on that route too, is too much. In Gen 4, you just flip to the proper app on the bottom screen, and it's just always there. When you press the border of a route, it updates. So easy. It updates in real time for you. I understand this is a 30-year-old game, and the fact that there are roaming Pokemon is a huge step up from Gen 1, but this is so tiring, especially since I have to catch 2 Pokemon, and Entei won't get in the fucking ball! I probably would have skipped this game, to be honest, if it wasn't for being the starting point of one of my favorite Pokemon, Celebi, and in the Virtual Console, they added the ability to get Celebi in the post-game. So I rushed through the main game with my team, Raikou, Gyarados, Suicune, Venomoth, Entei, and Eevee. Eevee actually stayed in my 6th slot, all so that I could get Umbreon. Eevee saw no battle whatsoever. I then went to catch Ho-Oh, so I could actually fly places and stop using Hoot-Hoot. I then went to grab the CS ball and gave it to the ball lover. I then had a wait a day, so I figured, let's go take over Kanto. And that's what I did. I actually started by unlocking every city I could reach, and then went back and beat every gym, until I could move on and move to the final areas. This is when it really started to settle in. This was a direct sequel. We get to see where all the characters are now. Misty is dating, Brock got more buff, Blue is still a sore loser, and Red is so strong, he went to hide in the mountains. I breezed by the Kanto region with my legendaries, and when it came to challenging Red, I didn't. I saw how strong he was, I saw how strong I was, and I didn't want to grind to get there, just to have a small chance of winning. I started this journey to be the best, but sometimes trying your best is good enough. So I went to grab Celebi and called it there. When I went to start the post-game after beating Pokemon Emerald and saw it had corrupted, I was heartbroken. All that work and memory in an instant. So much time wasted. And I'm on a time limit. All because at some point 17 years ago, I ended up getting a fake Pokemon Emerald cartridge. So I started by trying to figure out how to recover anything from the game. I found a video about recovering a 15-year-old deleted Pokemon, so I bought what they used and downloaded the software they used. I bought a flash cart so I can move the game save over to it and continue playing. What ends up happening on reproduction cartridges is they can't hold that much data. The Pokemon GBA games hold up to 128 kilobytes of save data. To my understanding, the way the GBA games save is in blocks. One block is the current save, and the other block is the last save or the backup save. With reproduction Pokemon games, typically they will save wrong when they reach the save limit, or once the game tries to save after the Hall of Fame and completely corrupts. What I'm hoping is somewhere in this corrupt data, I can save my Pokemon, if not the whole game, and move them to a clean version of the game, and run it on a flash cartridge and trade them to FireRed so I can transfer them to Platinum, and then bring them all the way up to Pokemon Home. So once my new toys arrived, I got to work. I ripped both the ROM and the save from the cartridge. I did some extra research and found a forum post about how to recover a corrupt save from Pokemon Emerald. It was for emulated games, but this was still helpful in discovering that my game is completely gone. The save didn't just corrupt. The whole cartridge did. It won't read in PK hex, and when put into a hex editor, it's nonsense. There is nothing readable. My Emerald game is a graveyard. This means there's only one thing left to do. I grabbed a plushie and called her Chick. I talked to my daddy, told me get lost loser, and I was on my way. I tried to grab as much of my original team as I could, but for the most part, I just ran through the game. I mostly focused on Chick as my lead, and had her evolve before the first gym. I was honestly breezing through this game. Chick destroyed my dad, and then I rushed to grab Absol, and everything is smooth sailing into Moss Deep City. I now have to stop my momentum and find a Wailmer and a Relicanth to unlock the Reggie trio. Wailmer is easy as always, but Relicanth took me 3 hours to find last time. This time, 15 minutes. I got comfy. I grabbed a snack, I put on the yard, and in 15 minutes, Buddy decides to show up, like we're friends. And you know what? I hugged him like a brother, and then we got to work. I went for Rayquaza, and I caught him in a Pokeball, at full health. I went for the Reggies, this time with full knowledge of how to catch them. Regirock was difficult, like before, but I got him after a handful of attempts. Regice, literally my best friend. First attempt, first ball, bro just hopped right in. Both times, he's been the easiest one. I absolutely love him. Registeel, I showed him who was boss after last time. With that, I was off to the Elite Four. You know how it went already. I'm not gonna lie, by the time I got to entering the Hall of Fame, I was really nervous. But then the credits rolled, I went to save data screen, and there it was. My game was still there. I am the champion of the Hoenn region. But I'm not done yet. As I begin the post game, my mom talks to me about the news. I have to choose between Latios and Latidas. I choose Latidas, but I really don't like these Pokemon anyway, because they're jets and it's kind of weird to me. But I need to get Groudon and Kyogre, who are somewhere chilling in the world, affecting the weather. But with that, I'm finished. I've finished all the Pokemon games I wanted to finish. Now it's time to bring them all to the modern day. To begin with, I feel really bad moving all my Pokemon up and leaving the cartridges empty with no starters or no original teams. So like I did in X, I had my original team Breathe in FireRed, Platinum, and Black. With Emerald and Crystal, I don't mind losing those teams in those games because they aren't really connected to my childhood. For FireRed and Platinum, I was actually bringing the kids of my team with me and leaving the original teams in the cartridges, so the games can remain where I left them for the most part. These are my original games and they matter to me the most. The amount of memories I have with these games and trials I faced after beating them, the way I used Charizard as my lead Pokemon and he helped me beat the Pokemon League for the first time, catching Articuno when killing Zapdos, finally getting to the Distortion world and catching Giratina, catching Palkia and Dialga. I would love to keep these games untouched so my childhood stays where I left it. I gave away so many toys and things I cared about as a kid when growing up because those things were childish I don't want that to happen with these games. I can take the kids they breed and the original can stay in the past, protecting my childhood. I move up my legacy team from FireRed to Home as a test to learn how to move everyone. Then I get to work at moving everyone else. Before I do though, I learn my flashcard can actually act as a normal cartridge, meaning I can use it directly to move my Emerald game to Platinum, instead of trading to FireRed first. Then I realized something. I had used my repo Pokemon Emerald cartridge to transfer Pokemon upwards as a kid. When looking through my Platinum boxes, I came across 6 Pokemon that said they were from the Hoenn region. And the original trainer? Me. Meaning, if I didn't challenge the Elite Four, I could have just brought my Pokemon to Platinum and be done by now. This was also significant because a lot of reproduction cartridges can't transfer to Gen 4. I had a really lucky cartridge. Well, adding to my list of Pokemon to bring up was that set of Hoenn Pokemon from that dead world. Before I moved my Platinum Pokemon, I started feeling a bit of dread. I don't want to ruin my cartridge, but I do want to bring as many Pokemon up with me as possible. But because I've completed everything in this game at this point, I might not return to it anymore. And eventually, the game will die and I'll lose all my Pokemon anyway. So after thinking on it, I decided to move my original team up despite my sentimentality. So that means Infernape, Staraptor, Giratina, and Celebi are coming with me. But at this point, we had a big list going all the way up to Gen 5, including all my legendaries from Platinum, including the Reggies, Kanto Birds, Lake Guardians, and 2 Arceuses, 1 from the Mystery Gifts, and 1 from the Azure Flute, as well as my Gen 3 team and its legendaries. So I began the process to move the Pokemon to Gen 5. And it's just another reason to hate Gen 5. In order to transfer to Gen 5, you need a link to another DS, and then select 6 Pokemon and play a shooting minigame and beat the time limit, or you have to restart the minigame. Now I will say, this felt a lot faster than transferring to Gen 4, because Gen 4 you need to do an added game as well, but in that one you need to actually encounter the Pokemon randomly in its environment. This can be so much worse because sometimes they just don't show up for a really long time. And in others, you just might not know what type of grass or water they'd show up in. At least the Gen 5 minigame, it's fun. It takes less than 2 minutes to beat, and I'm also goated at the game. I didn't fail a single time. I also expected it to be worse or harder because a lot of people complained about it online. But I'm for it because screw Gen 5, but I was good at this game. And I expected after every attempt it would break the connection between the DSs, and I would have to reconnect every time. But no, it stays connected, making it easy to select more Pokemon, so I completed that, and had a good time doing it. Next, it was to bring my Pokemon from Gen 5 to Pokemon Bank. And of course, was bringing all the mystery gift Pokemon, and then I decided to bring my Unpheasant, because it was about this time I noticed at some point Unpheasant contracted Pokerus. I had never noticed Unpheasant had Pokerus until now. I didn't know what Pokerus was as a kid, so I don't think I would notice then. Nobody else has Pokerus, so he obviously didn't have Pokerus at a time that he was fighting to give it to anybody else. But if you don't know how rare that is, I'm shocked that I had that luck at some point. But if I'm gonna bring Unpheasant, I need to bring Emperor, because they've been inseparable since day one. They were my first 2 Pokemon, and if anybody are best friends in this game, it's those 2. And then I realized I needed to bring Emperor's kid, because I named him something too good. So I left an extra egg for Swak to raise. I would love to bring Swak too, because he was a 3rd member of my team in the early game, who I had to abandon in order to use more HMs. But he was the man back then. He will raise Emperor's and Unpheasant's kids, and they will become really strong with him. Now, transferring was easily done just by putting Pokemon Black into the 3DS, and then opening Pokemon Transporter, and then Transporter will put it into the Transporter box in Pokemon Bank. This is also how I will transfer Pokemon Crystal over. This is when I had trouble bringing my second Arceus through the bank. The Arceus from the Azure Flute kept getting flagged because apparently it isn't at level 100 and knows Judgment. It won't pass through the migration. So you need to have it at level 100 before Gen 5, make sure it knows Judgment, or else it will never be able to pass through Pokemon Bank because it will keep getting flagged as a hacked Pokemon, even though it can be treated as legitimate because that Arceus was never officially distributed. Oh well, I can always get another Arceus from BDSP or Legends Arceus, so it's not a big deal. Just use this as a lesson to always do your research before doing something risky. With that, all my Pokemon are in Bank. Now it's just the easy process of moving from Bank to Home. I simply have to connect Pokemon Home to Pokemon Bank using a code, select the boxes I want to move, and a moment later, it's all done. The journey is over. All my Pokemon are safe and home. However, I can't help but feel a little bit of dread still. A bit of that feeling of not being able to take a choice back because I moved all my Pokemon from Platinum up, kind of ruining my childhood game. I feel the most guilt about Giratina and Celebi because they are definitely my faves from the game, but now I can't take that back. If you're asking why I didn't just back up my save and move them forward, because I looked into it and saw that that wasn't an easy thing to do without modding a 3DS. Could I do that? Probably. But after looking into it, every tutorial, whether it's written or video, felt like it assumed I had already installed custom OS or knew certain terminology and steps to mod software. So while I might be able to download this stuff and then pop it in an SD card, to someone who isn't confident in what they're doing, it really reads as, make sure your hardware has a proper OS that can run the custom software that you're hopefully only need to download once. If it doesn't, how do you get the OS? I don't know, because none of the tutorials say how. Pop the SD card into the console and hope it doesn't break your system. If it doesn't, pop the SD card back out. Do more, hopefully once download our computer. Take the apps for the custom firmware, pop the SD card back into the system. Hope it doesn't break. Am I being dramatic? Is this less of an issue than it needs to be? Yeah, probably. Many people seem to have no issues modding. But to say it's easy when the barrier of entry takes knowing or having done certain things around modding your 3DS already, with no explanation on how to actually start, makes this not easy. For now, I didn't do that. I just sucked it up and moved my Pokemon. But I did back up my FireRed game save, because that was easy. I put it in a card reader and backed it up to my computer, and then was able to load it onto an emulator. If I had a card reader for the DS, that would have been fine, but nobody's making those, because now you can just use a 3DS if you know how to mod a 3DS, but I'm getting sidetracked. More importantly, I was able to play it on my flash card. So I thought, and I had a moment, and I moved a copy of my original FireRed team, not their kids, my original team, all the way up to Home. And seeing my childhood Charizard on my TV next to Giratina and Celebi and Venomoth and Absol and his own kid took some of that guilt away. It was like child me passing his most prized Pokemon to future me, and I'm promising I'll take care of him. I am now the region champ of Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, Manhattan, and Kalos. I have every team I have ever used in Pokemon Home, and a few of their babies, as well as a ton of legendaries, mystery gifts, and hard to obtain Pokemon. And with that, this adventure is over. But actually not yet. Because as I sat longer, and I thought about how cool being the champion is, I thought how cool would it be to have a Pokemon with a champion ribbon from every region. And how rare these older ribbons will become one day. And I looked at my FireRed team, and I sent them to Hoenn, and they beat the Elite Four. And then I found out that's the same ribbon! They didn't change the ribbon for Gen 3. So FireRed and Emerald use the same exact champion ribbon, because that's when ribbons started. But they didn't change the ribbon. There's no special Kanto or Hoenn ribbon in Gen 3. It's just champion ribbon. So whatever. I sent them to Sinnoh. And I got the Sinnoh champion ribbon. This one's actually different this time. So I sent them to Unova. And they beat the Elite Four. And I don't have a ribbon! They were like getting rid of ribbons or something in this generation. So they didn't have a ribbon for Gen 5. Fuck Gen 5. So they went to Kalos. And they got the Kalos ribbon. But wait, now that means I have to beat Stop talking, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking. Ah! The problem with Pokemon Sun is that I moved all my original team out of Sun. So now I have to transfer my FireRed team that are way too higher level into Pokemon Sun, and none of them are listening to my trainer's command except for Venomoth, who is just barely willing to listen. She's 2 levels off from disobeying. Luckily, I just need to beat this one trial, and everyone but Charizard will listen to me. Charizard is level 100 at this point, and he won't listen until the post game. So I mash A through this game, raging at every time I get told to follow someone. They walk 2 steps, and I walk 2 steps, and they stop me to say something I won't read. Whatever, I can't complain forever. I caught Leomon with a Pokeball, first try, and face the Elite Four with ease. After that, I wait 30 minutes from the champion screen for the credits to roll. 30 minutes. This isn't 30 minutes of credits, mind you, or me playing more game for 30 minutes until the credits. This is a 30-minute cutscene of everyone celebrating while I just sit and watch. Characters I know nothing about. Characters whose names I couldn't guess for you. This is a waste of time! The game does a detour for a minute to catch a Pokemon I haven't seen since the start of the game, but luckily I have a Master Ball, so I can just throw it and whatever, moving on. 30 minutes since I became a champion for the credits to start rolling! It takes nearly 45 minutes to get to the post game! Sun is the worst Pokemon game I have ever played. I can say that now. I'm not gonna call this game hand-holdy. It's an on-rails Pokemon game that forgot the rails, but still locks you on this path. I'm so happy I'm done with this game. I sent my FireRed team into Sun, got the Alola ribbon, but then I realized I could get a Hoenn ribbon. There are Hoenn remakes that have a Hoenn ribbon in them. So I bought Alpha Sapphire. I ran through Gen 3 for a 3rd time and beat the Pokemon League again. I actually like these remakes too. Out of the Pokemon remakes, this one is pretty good. It feels like the original games while still standing on its own. However, the first half of the game is actually just the GBA titles. Only once you beat your dad are you gifted a Latidas and you start hearing about Mega Stones. After the 6th gym, you get Fly, so I imagine a lot of players gave it to their free Latidas. And then right after that, you get the Eon Flute, which allows you to call Latidas at any point to fly anywhere. While opening up the map and hitting Fly on the bottom screen is faster. This is a pretty cool part of the game, where you actually get to fly over the Hoenn region. But again, I imagine a lot of players wasted Fly on Latidas, when Latidas can now just fly anywhere, regardless of whether you have it in the game or not. Not to mention, I'm nearly done with the game at this point. While there is still a lot to do in the post game, like catch all the legendaries, then catch all the box legendaries from Gen 2 to Gen 5. No, I didn't misspeak. I mean every box legendary and trio from Gen 2 to Gen 5 are available in Gen 3 remakes. They are available in Oras. That means Raikou, Entei, Suicune, Ho-Ho, Lugia, obviously the Gen 3 mons, like Kyogre, Groudon, Regirock, Regice, Registeel, Rayquaza, Deoxys, and the Gen 4 mon, Regigigas, Cresselia, Uxie, Mesprit, Azala, and the Gen 5 legendary Suicune. That's not it though. You will also be able to get the starters as well. Like what? Meaning my guilt from sending my Gen 4 Pokemon to home wasn't needed. I could have just bought this game and been okay. Okay, I'm lying. Alpha Sapphire only gets you Dialga, while Palkia is locked in Omega Ruby. So I would still need to move. So I bought Omega Ruby, and something interesting was here. There's a save file already on the cartridge. Abner. And Abner put the game in the Elite Four. Not the Elite Four lobby, in the Elite Four. Before doing anything else, I checked his team, checked his Pokedex. He seems like he kind of just rushed through the game. He didn't catch Groudon. He hasn't seen any other legendaries. He hasn't moved anybody else. He's only caught 8 Pokemon in total. His team is severely underleveled. Abner clearly felt the same way I felt about Pokemon Black about this game. He just wanted to play through it, beat it, and give it up. Problem was, when he got to the Elite Four, he saved, and it doesn't seem like he was able to get through to it, so he just gave up. So Abner, probably not watching this, but if you are, I want you to know I beat Omega Ruby for you with your team. I sat down, strategized with your weak-ass team to beat Omega Ruby, and I did it for you. But thank you as well. Thank you for getting this far, because you got this far, I was able to catch all the legendaries. I went through Delta episode, caught Rayquaza, caught Deoxys in a Pokeball like an asshole, and then I caught Palkia. I caught the Regis again. I caught the Lake Guardians. I caught Ho-Ho. Caught them all. And then I brought my Alpha Sapphire team over. And then we got the starters. And we got Giratina. And then we went back to Alpha Sapphire. And we got another Tina. And at this point, it was time to restart Omega Ruby, because I'm going to restart Omega Ruby and get them all under my name. But we're done. And then I realized my FireRed team couldn't go backwards. Sun is Gen 7. Alpha Sapphire is Gen 6. I didn't know. I just thought Game Freak would have figured that out somehow. But no, it's okay. I gave it my best shot. I got a ton of new Mons. I got 2 Tinas. We can move on. I did it all again! I came this far for ribbons! I deserve the ribbons! And I did it! I got the ribbons! I beat the Hoenn region. I got that Hoenn maybe, and then I moved them into Pokemon Sun, and then we moved all the Mons up! And now I have my original childhood FireRed team with every classic champion ribbon on them. Thankfully, all the future games are going to be better than Pokemon Sun, right? No. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. Oh, no. 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 Oh, what is that? Oh, why? No. No.